Hello, I'm Chylli from channel Chylli, also known as Try, and we are back with more Limbus Company, and we're getting right back into the Arknights crossover. We walked past a few narrow buildings and remnants of narrow buildings before we came across a hall large enough for to house all 15 or so of us. Okay, so now we're ready. With the curtains on the window removed, the smoke has an exit. I thought we were all doomed to shudder ourselves to sleep with the soaking wet firewood and all. I had no idea that'd work. We just have to get a small fire going underneath it until the wood dries up and catches fire. The downside being all the smoke. It's clear that she has some field experience, unlike some fools I know. I shan't stay here and let her carry the burden of labor alone. Bequeath upon me thine ingredients, young Rebelión, for I shall conjure thee a pot of special fixer soup. You're making soup with cookies and jelly. No, you're not getting anywhere near the kitchen again, not after you cooked up last time. While I must admit to a certain level of interest, as many of our fellow viscera are oft racked with intense agony upon ingesting dishes of your making. Perhaps it would be wiser that we save the occasion for a safer environment. Right, don't you remember we agreed to leave cooking to Odie? If we're ever in a situation like this, remember? Good, Rhea? See, I think it's become a sort of unspoken rule after everything that happened. Remember back during last year's cooking contest at K-Corp, they were the only two that could manage to get remotely positive reviews? Does that mean we get to try Otis's cooking once again? Denied, we still have plenty of high-calorie foods like cookies and jellies here. I see no reason to do with something so inefficient. I'm glad to see that everyone's so energetic given the circumstances. It can't be easy to suddenly wake up in an unfamiliar environment. Well, we're all quite used to getting thrown into unfamiliar places. Speaking of which, did you manage to reach out to your colleagues, Amia? She shook her head concerned. They might have lost their comms devices, or maybe they ran into some other trouble. Could they be in danger? I don't know, but I'm sure they're okay. The Dr. Galt said they're more than capable enough to look after themselves. Long as the curiosity lingered within me, this led me to inquire. Corporations are, by their nature, organizations in pursuit of profit. Yet the activities of your corporation resemble those of a charity organization as opposed to a pharmaceutical company. Is there aught that might explicate this blurred distinction? I wanted to know too, how come a pharmaceutical company like Rhode Island is helping people? Something about what Huntley said brings back unpleasant memories. The horrible experiments seen through the cascade of flowing tears in the face of suffering. The embodiment of greed that left a terrible wound in Huntley's fathom. The pharmaceutical companies I've seen on my journey were corporations that, despite possessing the capability to heal, chose to obsess over the profit it can provide. There are many in Terra who are suffering from a disease. The disease crystallizes you and spreads deeper and deeper into the infected's internal organs, eventually culminating in their demise. It's called oripathy. A man showed me the back of her right hand dotted with what appeared to be obsidian crystallization. Its appearance reminded me of the bayou treatments from the back streets, but there was something more to it, something more restless, more sinister. It's a terrible, painful disease, but there hasn't been any recorded cases of full recovery. But there's an even worse problem. Pray tell, what could possibly be worse than an incurable, deadly disease? While it varies region by region, discrimination against the infected is widespread across Terra. Those who suffer from it must face unfair treatment, Yusong began with a dark expression. Some are quarantined in places with terrible, inhumane conditions, and there have been massacres too. I didn't mean to be callous, but this oripathy is highly contagious. No, there hasn't been any recorded cases of infection by contact as long as the subjects are alive. But when the infected dies, the crystal growths on their body decay and turn into dust, scattering, which is what spreads the plague. It's in barring environments like active battlefields where casualties are to be expected, staying within close proximity of the infected in daily life seems to pose hardly any risk. So what's the problem then? They're already past the point of caring about what the problem is. Once people start feeling iffy, all logic goes out the window. Then Rhode Island's goal has to be... Yes, it is important to develop a cure for oripathy, but I think what really matters is that we change the circumstances for the better for the infected. That's not going to be an easy endeavor, though. That is what gives your effort more meaning. I hope you can achieve that goal, Lamia. I really do. For truth, the city, this world, we both live in worlds full of surprises, don't we? What kind of world did you come from? The city. What kind of place is the city anyway? The kind of place with too many pointless rules. The kind of place where the moment you think, isn't this too much? You see something even worse. Try as I might, I couldn't think of a single positive thing about the city. The sinners seem to be in agreement, as most of what we came after was quite scathing. The kind of place where good deeds really ever go unpunished, where sympathy is a good attitude to have if you like getting stabbed in the back. Nothing good ever works out there. It's a shy hole. It's an irrational place full of absurdities. Absurdity is an omnipresence, therefore it is not a subject. It is not a subject by which one should be aggrieved. We can at least grasp about them, though. I mean, it's the only thing we can do. It would be more correct to experience more and acclimate oneself to it instead of complaining. You did say something like that last time. Just as the mood was beginning to turn rather sour, Don Quixote's shout scattered through the awkwardness. Verily, nary a day goeth by untarnished by villains and their fell deeds. Worry not Yet worry thee not, for where evil ariseth, so do facers of justice too. Don Quixote jumped from her seat and passionately shook her fist, by which followed a heavy crack and the sound of small pebbles tumbling down. Don Quixote, watch out! And from behind the wall, she accidentally broke down. An unfamiliar visage of a villager appeared and stared back at Don Quixote. It appeared as though she was eating something out of a can while reading a book. How farest thou? Fairest thy foot, thy... You gotta apologize first. Glass seemed a tad too hyper today. Apologies, for I hardly expected the wall to crumble with such ease. Art thou unhurt? Any injuries? Pray tell, to what? Forget the apology. I just want to know what happens next. The fixers of justice was up to do what? Past, hast thou come to hear the tale of fixers? I don't know about coming to us, given how Miss Don Quixote was the one who punched the wall down. Is it too late in the hour? I don't mind waiting till morning if you want to sleep. Nay, not at all. 'Tis quite early an hour for tales, in fact. Prithee, seat thyself here. You ungovernable fool, calm down. We don't even know who she is. And no, you forget to share those fixer tales over there in the corner to not disturb our sleep. That maketh him a request most untenable. These tales deserve to be announced to the world with great gusto from the center. Yeah, that's the best way to hear these kinds of stories, but we should probably introduce ourselves to each other first. Name's Mayors. How should I put this? They made the village chief earlier during the day. He's my gramps. That nice guy, so he had a granddaughter. Yet I have not seen you once, Miss Mayors under the sun. Oh my, you're right. I thought the village was completely dried of any young blood. Like Rhodia said, while we did not see mayors out there, there wasn't anyone else in the village we could comfortably call young. You're telling me Gramps is worrying over nothing and told me to stay put inside, going on and on about the dangers that the outside pose and everything. It seems that they do not give full faith to their saviors. There are things you cannot share even with whom you trust you for your life, though I would like to know why. My, so there are a bunch of other kids who are stuck indoors in the village. No, there isn't anyone around my age in the village at all. If that's the case, I guess I can understand why you'd be overprotective. Anyway, it's our turn. I'm good. I heard enough to get an idea. You did? Pray, how did thou hear us? Via listening device, my secret upon our chamber. Mayor tapped the side of the wall, the part that was still standing anyway, and smiled ironically. That's soundproofing. I could hear pretty much everything Don Quixote, right? Everything Don Quixote practically sang during the day. Verily, I see. I think you could really do with some sense of embarrassment for once. Well, I guess that's good enough for self-introduction, so care to regale me with a tale of fixers who bring justice to the evils of the city? Indubitably, then, this shall do. I shall regale thee with a tale in which the legendary fixer, the arch-magnificence herself, the Red Mist, hath... I suppose I killed any hope of a good night's kip. Don't you usually pass out within a minute you're back hitting the hay, no matter how noisy things are? What, do you take me for some kind of hibernating bear or something? Look, even I have trouble sleeping when there's noise all over. I'd say bear in hibernation is a pretty apt descriptor. For all that grumbling and moaning, he's dozed off before any of us did. Aside from Heathcliff, who began snoring the moment his head touched the ground, some of the sinners were fast asleep as well. Marceau had entered sleep in his usual steadfast adherence to the routine, while Faucely claimed to one of the few available cloth sheets as soon as the close of business for the day was confirmed. The sinners who had spent the entire last night searching for me in this unfamiliar land slowly began to fall asleep as well. Meanwhile, the face of the Zwei Association's first section. Throughout the night, though it was no longer young, Don Quixote was still vigorously sharing the tales of adventures. Without even a single sign of fatigue, she's not determined to do this until sunrise, is she? I guess it's okay since Mayor seems to be having fun. As I continued to watch the pair with some mild concern, Hamya, not yet asleep, approached me. The city, Miss Don Quixote speaks of, seems to be teeming with fixtures for justice and exhilarating tales of adventure. Did you actually experience all of them yourselves? No, of course not. Don Quixote's stories are usually those of other famous people. But she's telling it with such vigor that it almost sounds like she was there herself. Well, I guess, if you really want to get into it, some of them might be retellings of Don Quixote's personal experiences. Ishmael replied uncertainly, looking back to the plays we were made to watch back in La Mancha land. Well, I think all those stories, even though they're only partially true, just go to show what a ridiculous place it can be. We wouldn't need fixers of justice to begin with if we really lived in a just world, right? A really good place to live would be quiet and peaceful without someone having to force it. That's true. I hope there will come a day when Rhode Island can be a normal pharmaceutical company in the future. Something wrong? No, I just thought Miss Mayers and I made eye contact. Did she hear our conversation? I looked in her direction as well, but all I saw was Mayers excitedly reacting to Don Quixote's tales. What happened then? Thus spoke Lady Otis boldly before the soldiers who stood in our path. Thou presumest to stand in our path, servants of a master most unworthy. I, Otis, shall educate ye on how manner maketh. Don Quixote was now retelling the stories of Limbus Company's adventures and Hong Yuan and Otis, who can no longer stand Don Quixote's unintentional altercation to the story, jumped to her feet and shouted, "Damn it, what kind of nonsense are you feeding her? I never said anything like that." Verily, certain aspects of the retelling may have been exaggerated. That's tales of adventures for you. Things are bound to get a bit dry when a story is told too realistically and as is, right? You know, nothing, not even anything resembling a proper record or book remained once a profound silence swept through the village. I've always had a craving for these kinds of stories, but Iberia doesn't stop Iberians from immigrating contrary to their tight immigration control. Have you ever thought about leaving this place? It's still a challenge to cross the border, especially since we're going to have to pass through larger cities that are managed by the Inquisition. You don't seem particularly fond of this Inquisition. Why is that? That's because this village was formed by people who grew tired of living under the Inquisition's rule and fled. Sorry, but what kind of organization is this Inquisition? Sinclair asked, face turning cold upon hearing the word Inquisition, and that people fled from it. Yeah, the Nagel and Hammer we saw back at Kawa aren't the kind of memories that are so easily forgotten. According to Dr. Kaltsit, the Inquisition is what filled the power vacuum once Iberia fell into chaos. That its inquisitors were the rapier and lamp-wielding protectors of Iberia's cities from lawlessness. That alone kinda makes them sound like good people, though. Yeah, they are, but there's the Church of the Deep. The Inquisition will go to whatever lengths to deal with incidents related to the church that worships Seaborns. By an organization that worships those monsters, it seems like cultish fanaticism is a plague wherever we go. I feel like people with all kinds of wrong faiths and beliefs are so common. See, the Seaborns are the ones that messed Iberia up, so following their logic, apparently it's okay for them to arrest anyone who seems even remotely connected to them. Are you saying that Iberia is like this because of the Seaborns? Those things from earlier, I guess they were kinda troublesome to deal with, but they didn't seem as strong. Anyway, it's just what I heard from Gramps, but the Inquisition executed many innocent people too in their crusade against the Church of the Deep. For those who proclaim to be on the side of justice, they seem quite fond of committing such villainy. It seems like a reasonable policy decision to me, but it must pose a clear danger to the daily lives of civilians. Yeah, I heard I was the only survivor. Everyone in my family died. You must have had to endure such a long period of pain to be able to say something like that with such composure. For Iberia, there are heroes who bring the land back to its glory days, but to Gramps, they were just oppressors, making his life difficult. That's why we all come here, fleeing from the Inquisition's gaze. Yet wherefore hast thou decided to settle at a place that is so run down? And good. Yeah, I know, but it's not so bad once you get used to it. Besides, we managed to find a new path thanks to you guys. A new path? Well, it's getting late. Will you be repairing the ship tomorrow, too? This place really has no soundproofing at all, huh? Good talk, everyone. Hope we'll get another chance to do this tomorrow, too. After seeing Mayor's to our own room, the sinners, those who were still up anyway, and I laid ourselves to the hardstone floor, with only a thin layer of cloth between it and our backs. A mysterious world that is neither the city nor the outskirts, but it seemed that the lives of its people, lad, were just as difficult as they were anywhere else. Another 25-minute one, wow. Yay, we are having another combat encounter here.
군주가 흑수, 오필두, 이상이요.
명을 받듭니다. 이제야 명을 받듭니다.
어디서?
잠깐, 이번 임무는 잠깐.
주군께서 모이를 뿌리셨어.
아, 이번 의뢰는 몇 발이나 들고 가야 하냐?
필두, 출진.
It's so big. Amazing. I didn't know there were remaining vessels of this class in Iberia. I espy her name here. It is called the name Rebelión de las Masas. Rebelión de las Masas, Revolt of the Masses, is that a name very much mired in peculiarity indeed. Honglu chimed in that he was rather fond of its size, being about the same as the boat from his home, while Ishmael quickly jumped in to correct us that its size alone wasn't anything special at the Great Lake, but it was still pretty big compared to Mephi or the Indigo Elder's skiff. I thought it was going to be somewhere around Mephi's size at most. Are you sure you can get the ship fixed in a day or two? As I briefed you yesterday, the great majority of the time-consuming repairs have already been completed by the villagers. The extent of our repair efforts only concerns a few components within the vessel that the villagers could not repair, which shouldn't take us very much time. Unless parts that are unfamiliar to Faust are also malfunctioning, such as the core engine, remaining repairs should be sufficiently managed by Faust. Despite Otis's confident declaration, I could not help but feel oddly unsettled as I looked at the ship. I don't know why, but something tells me we don't want to linger here for too long. Still, please be thorough about it just in case. I'd rather not sit on a sinking ship again. The experience of the Great Lake was enough. Do not worry, Dante. Unlike Mephistopheles, most functions of this vessel, buoyancy gear, propellers, steering gear, are all in operational capacity. The repairs should be much easier than the case with Mephistopheles. They seem confident enough. It should be safe this time around, right? Are we taking that rope to climb up to the ship? No, there's a lift-like apparatus down here. It should take us up to the ship. Its stability was verified yesterday. Let us board the lift. You're 100% certain, right? The boat is afloat right now, Dante. I don't think it'd be sinking anytime soon. Wouldn't that be nice? Wait, are you two just going to flap around down here? We're headed up right now. No, we're going with you. As I made my way onto the vessel's bridge, I was greeted by the extravagant interior that was as gaudy as its exterior. This isn't real gold, is it? Surely it's shiny as heck in here. I've got butterflies in my stomach. Aesthetically satisfying, she says, but too ostentatious, not quite my style. Our young Mephi is also quite the excellent vessel, yet imagine the adventures we could embark on aboard this vessel, most lavishly decorated. As Faust and Otis were working on one of the control panels, Ishmael walked up to another and interfaced with it before giving us a knowing nod. This must have been an investigative or research vessel of some sort, but it does seem a bit extravagant for one of those, though. Look, coordinates updating in real time, it seems. The coordinates seem to be set somewhere out in the middle of the ocean. Maybe it points to a small islet. Nope, no islet there. Blimey, lass, you sure know how to sneak up on people. Mayors. What, did I actually surprise you? I did ask if you guys were gonna come fix the boat today. Still, I didn't know you'd be here. Why are the coordinates set to this location? There are several undersea cities beneath those coordinates, collectively known as Aegir. Ramps' home. I see, understood. What was understood, if I may ask? It is now understood why the promise to repair the ship was sufficient to earn their trust in the title of saviors. What is she on about? Someone get translating. Consolidating and cross-referencing the observed particular circumstances of the village and the statements from the village chief, alongside information garnered from the exchange with mayors. It is possible to gauge the significance of the ship's repair has to the local populace. Of course, while this may constitute a sequence of logical connections that pose a certain challenge for Heathcliff to comprehend, to employ any degree of effort in an attempt to explain it in more digestible language could constitute a pursuit of inefficiency. Lower the baton, I implore you. I shall explain it in full. I was wondering when this smartass would get gabbing like that again, so what's she on about? Heathcliff's shoulders were relaxed, as it doesn't seem like he was actually going to swing the bat. He placed it lightly over his shoulder with a sigh. A brief observation of the village seemed to suggest that their subsistence situation was quite dire. Much of the daily subsistence consisted of dried food, most of it from long-term storage purposes. Considering what Scotty said about how the coastal areas are full of danger, maybe those dried seafood aren't from around here either. Maybe it's true they packed when they first came to Faro Muerto. Some villagers were armed, yeah, and those sea terrors weren't exactly that formidable, but given the sea the villagers are in, I doubt they'd have an easy time repelling those monsters. Indeed, and that brings us to the question of sustenance. Right, I get what's going on here. The lass and her granddad are about to visit their hometown, and they're trying to get some food. Supplies from there to feed the villagers and to convince them they're planning to use the fact they're from the same neck of the woods or sea, I guess. So we're not just repairing the ship, we're repairing their food supply plan too. What's wrong? While the explanations were quite crude, Heathcliff's summary of the situation was clear, to the point and easily understood. The sinner stared at him with mild surprise. And I did too. What's up with them annoying looks? Wait, how you saws? You don't think I'm mad, dim-witted, do you? Top-notch intuition. It's just that it's been a while since you've shown this side of yourself. Thinking back, Heathcliff's intuition has always been excellent, and he's been often put together surprisingly accurate conclusions with impressive speed. You know, when you really think about it, it's kinda your fault for I've been so soft on you lately, haven't I? Wait, get back here. Now with those tools out of the conversation, was he correct? Notice it looks away from the usual chaos and smears. Honestly, I'm surprised he was on point. Yeah, food's been running low in the village. At this rate, we won't last another year. With an eager will, I am sure they will welcome us with open arms. I don't want to come off like I'm overly worried, but do you think they'll welcome the others too? Unlike mayors or chief, they're not eager. I believe they will. Iberia suspects and hasty a year for no reason other than that we're from the sea, but our home could not have fallen so low as to abandon a group of starving land dwellers. prithee, thou might explain to us who the Aegir are. I'd initially thought it to be a reference to a reason, yet it seems to be referring to an affiliation of sorts. Maybe there's something like nest dwellers, though I don't think I've heard of a nest that accepts backstreets people with open arms. Or maybe they used to be some rich folk. If they call them Nesthoff's Aegir here, does that make the rabbit-eared lass Aegir too? Wait, in the world you came from, do they not distinguish between races? That's not entirely true. Delineation between races is a concept that does exist, though I only saw them in the Fathoms. There were those terrifying things called the cuckoo spawns. However, as a general rule, it can be said that humans should be the only intelligent life forms in the city. The people of Terra have slightly varying appearances based on their race, like my Countess here's. And I've got pointed ears because I'm Aegir, though it's not a characteristic every Aegir shares. The closest idea to what they're discussing appears to be, Don Quixote seemed to be struggling to finish her sentence. Merso stepped in to continue. By context clues and the manner of word usage, including the means of classification, the closest example in our world would be bloodfiends. Similar external appearance to humans, different natures, comparable sapiens. 'Tis in my belief that bloodfiends are ostracized due to their nature that maketh coexistence with humans difficult. It may be that the Aegir are also... I'm sure some of them do possess qualities that makes coexistence with others difficult, but they're probably rare. Then wherefore are they made subjects of suspicion and hatred? Well, the language is new, but the idea itself is pretty familiar to city folks like us. Think of feathers of fallen wings, kids born of the back streets. People who replace their body parts with prosthetics. The form differs, yet in its essence we find a thread. Something about how we keep finding these similarities in the ways our lives, despite finding ourselves in a distant world, our different rules, races, and humans, felt oddly discomforting. The point is, you guys are doing us a real solid by fixing up the ship. Let's move on from these gloomy conversations, okay? I want to show you the cooler parts of the ship. This way. The ship tour may have to wait. The repairs are almost completed, but an issue has arisen. Issue? Well, that's not reassuring at all. Multiple life forms identified ahead, assumed to be a sea terror horde. The ship's radar system seems to be suggesting that the vessel is surrounded. They're the same monsters from yesterday. Executive Manager, please order us to prepare for battle. Damn it, are they the sea terrors you encountered? They look a bit different, but yeah, probably. There's a lot of them, but if our last experience tells us anything, we should be able to handle this. Almia, please support us in battle like you did yesterday. Canst thou fight, young mares? I feel like I'm going to get in your way. And guys, let's find a place to keep mares as far as possible from the battle. Then hurry down here. We don't want them damaging the ship any further. Alright, combat time now.
행색이 이상하나 그럼에도 이상이여. 내가 맞서. 내가
불가
아시의
위야.
이상을 함께 줬다.
막아내지 못하리.
호위 이상이여.
틈틈 이제 깨치시길.
敵に対して大きな打撃を与えました。
그쪽 방향이 아닐 텐데.
効果的な攻撃でした。
거스라기. 지금은 좋았어요.
敵は深手を負っています。
불가 위야. 막아내지 못하리.
하나 넘고 물 넘고.
ドクターのように優れた式ですね。 タンデムの作戦、とても効果的でした。
가치 없군. 죽어.
토끼를 본다. 저 해충들을 도려내라.
이제 깨치시길.
묘여. 길을 열어. 넌 푸름을 틔울 수도 없겠구나.
지금은 좋았군요.
깔끔하게 물었군.
このままいけば敵を食い止められます。
Gang, we gotta deal with 20 of these guys. I mean, they're not hard at all, but...
시간 끌 것 없이
12세기 나왔다.
모조리
이
치워버리죠.
앞에 숨지는 자. 연애에서 못했나봐. 고작 이 정도면 넌 푸름을 틔울 수도 없겠구나. 말로 바란다. 저 해충들을 도려내라. 모여. 길을 열어라. 넌 푸름을 틔울 수도 없겠구나. 바람 불어오는 대로 짓밟아라.
敵は深手を負っています。
자, 어느 쪽일지 잘 생각해보라고.
I want to see the Ego animation, so I'm just going to let them run here.
멈추지 않는 시대에서 희망과 미래를 찾아 스스로 답을 구하시길.
흐릿한 등화, 곱게 접은 종이에 번졌으니 식구의 하늘, 용이 되어 긴 벼로에 남았구나. 모든 것에 변했어.
Yeah, those egos are pretty neat. I like how they are, and I also like that they have their own
또 한 줄 길을 남겼군. 핏물진 길을
unique
뿐이지만
effects that they give.
세월이 지나면 홍어는 그제야 알.
Like hardened shell barrier, and I know all of them have like one of those. So yeah, that's really neat that they all have their own unique thing to spend to
뱃대에서 내려 전장으로.
囚人の皆さんの状態に何か変化が。
행색이 이상하나 그럼에도 이상이여. 내가 맞서. 내가
Well, that's a big boy here.
줬던 호위 이상이여.
헤어내리.
12수에게 명한다. 이 앞에 숨쉬는 자 누구 하나 살려보내.
For being in hard mode, these guys are not really that difficult at all.
大きな打撃を与えました。
무상한 목숨. 불끈한 지원했군.
ドクターのように優れた式ですね。
그쪽 방향이 아닐 텐데.
네. 敵は深手を負っています。
시간 끌 것 없이
목을 떨고 주는 넌 그럼 튀울 수도 없겠구나.
敵は深手を負っています。
자, 어느 쪽일지 잘 생각해보라고.
숨통 끊기.
効果的な攻撃でした。
마음 놓고 열어졌지. 지 목을 떨고 주마. 넌 푸름을 틔울 수도 없겠구나.
エリートオペレーター並みの腕前です。
흑수묘. 뒷박질춤.
마음 놓고 열어졌지. 깔끔하게 물었군.
이제 깨우치시길.
タンタさんの作戦とても効果的でした。
모든 것에 견뎠어.
敵は深手を負っています。
헤어내리.
I'm avoiding the big guy right now because I really don't like his counter, and we'll just wait until he's the last one alive and then I'll get him.
하늘 넘고 물 넘고 꺾고 제쳐라. 하늘 넘고 물 넘고
이제 깨우치시길.
고작 이 정도 탕류의 허덕이나.
Oh well, looks like we'll be countered anyway.
このままいけば敵を食い止められます。
불가 위야. 막아내지 못하리.
지 목을 떨고 주마. 바람 불어오는 대로 짓밟아라.
That one was actually kind of tough there. The remaining entities have all returned to the sea. Is everyone okay? It was just like our last skirmish. Sea terrors that had been surrounding the ship returned to sea even before the battle came to an end. And their retreat felt too orderly and deliberate to just be running away. It's almost like they're making a tactical retreat. We're doing peachy, but what about the ship, Fow? Is the ship okay? Minor damages to the hull, but nothing that will impede the ship's operational capabilities. So I noticed during the battle, I may be wrong of course, but I think I noticed how around the end of the battle, those monsters were starting to go after the manager. You're probably right actually, I noticed too, at some point during our battle, those monsters realized that it's the manager who's commanding the rest of us. I sensed the very same. Their movements were fluid and adaptive, as though they were learning our behavior. Why does the Church of the Deep worship monsters like them? That ain't much of a question, is it? They must have all gone mental. I'm sure they have many reasons, but Seaborns are beings of infinite potential, so much so that there's no superlative big enough to properly convey the scale. As organisms, they can endlessly evolve and adapt. Every time they encounter a new environment or a new element, they transform themselves into other Seaborns. Maybe that is their draw. That fascination may be an attitude most befitting a researcher, yet the transformation of fascination into ideolatry is, if I may be frank, not entirely positive. I find them pretty uncomfortable. They just remind me of whales. Then can they adapt to learn a language to communicate with? What? Going by everything we heard, I think they sound really smart. Mayor's eyes went round at Hongwu's suggestion. She brought her hands to her mouth surprised. It sure was something. I heard there was a Seaborn who could talk. If non-humans speak the language of humans, regardless of its testament to their intelligence, it can only think of two possibilities as to why they would. One to communicate with humans, the other to deceive humans. More often than not, it's the latter. What about distortions? Some of them already know how to speak. Distortions are a phenomenon in which humans transform into monstrous forms, first observed after the White Nights and Dark Days incident. Therefore, that example is irrelevant to Otis's supposition. White Nights and Dark Days? She whispered quietly, but as we were standing rather close to her, we all caught on to the hint of joy in her voice. The pillar of light in the city, did it really? How have you come across this knowledge, Miss Mayers? Oh, that's... Ain't it obvious? We've got the culprit right here, the storyteller lass who's been gabbing on with no end. Yeah, she's been talking non-stop all morning about all kinds of stories, hasn't she? Yeah, I've not gotten that for you again. You didn't get so lost in your own stories that you blabbed all about our company's secrets, have you? Nay, if I said would simply not. As Don Quixote was subject to yet another round of scolding, Amia steered out toward the sea, wary that the sea terrors might start crawling to the surface once again before turning toward us. I wonder which of the two the Seaborns are. Their sense of self is really faint, so I don't think they'd be in either category. I think it's possible that they learned human language out of instinct. That the power of speech might help them survive. It appears that you, Miss Mayers, are quite the expert on the subject of seaborns. Your knowledge of them goes beyond what fear for one's survival may yield, thereby suggesting a different means of acquisition. Do you by chance worship the seaborns? I don't worship seaborns. Seaborns don't have any hopes or wishes, just desire for survival. Miss Mayers, does that mean if seaborns were somehow able to hope? Maybe so. Is that so? The repairs are complete. As we were conversing, Fast descended from the ship with a neatly organized set of tools bestowed from the village. Repairs completed. I'm guessing repairs are done? Yes, the ship is ready to set sail. The departure time and date in mind, I would prefer if we could depart as soon as possible. We don't have a set time or anything, but I think we should be able to set sail this late afternoon at the earliest. That soon. As you see, we don't have a lot to bring with us. By the way, how far out to sea do you guys need to go? We need to find this dimensional door of sorts. I could see the dimensional door's lights from the beach at night. It was faint, but given how the light's strong enough to break through the sea fog, we should be able to determine its location somewhere around the coastal waters. So we can go back tonight. The first order of business is to relay this news to the villagers. Yeah, I'm back to the village for now.
마침내 굴레 하나를 끊었소. 두려움 없이 나아갈 수 있는 아씨가 그리던 홍원이 한 걸음 더
Glad
가까워진
we're
것이.
officially 1/3 through the event.
그러니 언젠가 재회할 날 꼭 내게도 은자를 풀어주시오. 내 그것만을 바라고 온몸에 피를 묻혀가며 쉼없이 달리고 있으니.
And we are about halfway to getting title elegy as well. We really need more thread, don't we? Sorry, anyway, that's where I'm gonna leave it off for today's video. If you made it this far, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time when we continue with more Limbus Company. So yeah, until then, bye!